I want to say welcome and thank you to everyone for joining us today in another segment of the Jane Irrigation Training Series. And today we're getting a little bit out of the box, a little bit away from irrigation and more into a big picture subject. And I'm really thrilled today to have the two founders of My Job Depends on Ag, which has become such a popular term, not just in California, but you see it spreading across the nation. And we were just talking about this awareness of how ag affects everybody's life. And we're seeing now, especially with COVID, even a bigger separation, I think, for people in cities away from where their food comes from and all that contributes to that. And, we were kind of joking before we came on, and we were talking about how we used to think our food came from the grocery store. And now we think our food comes from the person in the truck that drops it on our front doorstep. And that's a big disconnect, and we're a long ways from that. And I'll tell you, Erik and Steve have been really valuable and really shown some great leadership for all of us to make this awareness greater. So yeah, today we have Erik Wilson and Steve Malanca. They're the founders of My Job Depends on Ag. And unless you've been hiding under a rock, you know about this group and the great work they're doing. And I just want to start out, Erik. Why did you guys start this? What kind of tell us the story about how all this got started?
Well, that story is lengthy, I guess, but I'll try to condense it. Steve and I had been friends for many years, since '97, and he worked at John Deere, and I was working on my father-in-law's ranch, and so that's how we kind of got introduced to each other. And it didn't take us long through our passion for, like we said, Fresno State football and talking about sports and that kind of thing, that we segued into talking about our agricultural problems and our water issues. And it had been a process from the time that we've developed that friendship to when Steve and a bunch of local farmers in the Fireball area demonstrated the importance of water through a YouTube video that was produced, and it was just to talk about all the jobs that depend on water, and they just illustrated that with the commodity of alfalfa and all the people there. We use that talking point a lot just to illustrate how many jobs it's just there, and it was kind of a shot from a helicopter, and you can see the field just covered in all kinds of different people doing the job. And then but the conversation, Steve and I would just feel frustrated, like everybody else, that you just can't get your voice heard. And there was a platform, a way to do it. And Steve had this ingenious idea of creating a decal that we would put on our cars, and it said, "My job depends on ag." And that was our way to identify us, to say, hey, this is who we are. We're out and about. Tell people that, my job depends on agriculture. And it wasn't something that Steve or I, sat down, called each other and planned on starting. It just kind of blossomed, and it went through just this spontaneous combustion, so to speak. And for myself, I found through Facebook early on in about a year before this, that I did make some headway just mentioning what I was doing on my farming operation or farming or my spraying, that people responded pretty positively to what I was saying or interested. So I told Steve that, this would be the best name in the world for a Facebook page, and discussions about water. It was about water. And I think I wrote down here, I think the whole mission, I think, is to provide the context to basically the human species, that it takes water to grow food. And it's grown, the most productive areas are grown in usually temperate and mild climates. And often those climates don't have a lot of rainfall, typically. They have long growing periods, and we happen to live in one of the most abundant places on earth. We do have water, and if we use it properly, manage it properly. And I think that's what our message, Steve's idea was, and the Facebook's kind of platform was, to reintroduce the importance of agriculture and how it sustains us all. Without it, there's nothing we can do. And I think that society has forgotten that.
Yeah. So do you guys spend a lot of time on water conservation or proper management of water? What's that look like?
You mean farmers here, the state?
Yeah,
Or?
yeah. Well, your Facebook page, the information you get out.
Well, I think for the page, when we started, we had two pages. We had one that was a like page, which would come from there was two pages, and we kind of just ended up with this one. And this is a members page, which gives each member the ability to post and be seen as much as I am. Okay. And so it's more organic in nature, where it allows anybody to talk about any topic regarding agriculture. Politics and agriculture too are interwoven. But personally, I try to illustrate water conversation efforts and water management issues and policy. Steve does the same. We especially when the conversations get louder, especially every wet season, we start talking about how much water we are going to have or not going to have. And so those conversations, it's time to start re-educating folks again about our water management policies in California.
Yeah.
We try, excuse me, we also realize that the perception out there is a lot different than reality when it comes to water use in California, and especially in ag. And Erik explained in the beginning very well. That's what we're been all about. And the page, in order to show people with water how many different jobs there are that ag affects, we gave everybody the ability to just show us who they are and where they are and how their job is affected in ag. And just the simple post of exposing yourself and how you're involved in ag is educational. And that's what we're trying to do, is get people to look at what we're doing.
Yeah, and I want to tell you guys, you're doing such a good job with it. First thing I want to say, the stickers you got out, right? Somebody I worked with saw that, and they're out of state. They're not in California. They called me from Idaho. They go, I see those stickers up here. So you hear about this a lot. You can't go anywhere and not see them in the Central Valley. So you guys did an amazing job with that. And then the other thing I think you guys are doing a really good job with is, in a day where Facebook can tend to be negative, I find your page very positive and supportive. And as a result, I think that's part of the reason why you have such popularity. It's and I'm not sure how you guys manage to do that, but you do a great job on that. Maybe you guys want to touch on that.
Yeah, I want to first, that just brings a great segue. First, yes. I want to thank all the admins: Lorna, Brendan, Erik, Chris, Leslie, Doug, Annie, Amanda, Bianca, Dave, Manuel, and former admins Janet, Bob, and Teresa. Have all of us have put an extraordinary time over the years in doing this, and trying to keep it positive is a daunting task. Let me tell you, it's very, very, very challenging. It taxes us all. But I think in general, the page is a lot of people that are just down to earth folks. So it helps naturally to have most of the people, I think, that are just, like your next door neighbor, a friend across the street. And it helps with that, to manage a page when you have that kind of membership.
We've had some wonderful responses from people in ag, read stories about other people in ag that have had the same exact experience that they're going through. And they've responded like they thought they were the only ones. And reading about other people's experiences has been an eye opener. And it's really fun to watch. We get people taking pictures of bugs, weeds, and all kinds of things that they have no idea what it is, and just asking for help. The people on the page, it's really a family, as you would imagine ag has. And it's a wonderful thing to be a part of, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys have also gained a lot of interest from video, right? I've seen some PBS has talked about you guys and run. Yeah. That's right. No, so tell us a little bit about that, Steve.
No, go ahead, Steve.
We've been blessed, Erik and I, and that's part of this visit this afternoon is interesting in that we I'm going to give you the long answer here. We're just a couple of guys that are making a living, We never had any idea this thing was going to take as much time as it has. We're not professional when it comes to what we say. We just letting people know this is how we feel. And it's been extraordinary to see this thing blow up. And especially when Eric's a father of two, he's got kids and he's got other interests. And my wife and I, our grandkids are up in Washington, and without the help of all these people who have been helping on this Facebook page, it wouldn't have been possible. So thanks to people just watching, Erik came across some people that have done some business with PBS, and they came to us and liked what we're doing. It's been grassroots. And they said, we think we can explain what your page is trying to do on video. So let's give it a try. And they've done a marvelous job. The other thing I wanted to point out real quick before we get into the movie, the decals you mentioned, we've sold a bunch in California, and we now have them all over the United States. But Erik and I were working, and this thing was blowing up so fast. We had so many requests for all the other 49 states. Rather than going through all the time and making it happen at the time, we were so overwhelmed. That decal behind you of the USA, Erik goes, just make one of the USA and take care of the rest of the 49 states. Go back to work. We don't have time to this. And the funnest thing as part of this with Erik that I share is that we had a lot of money in our pocket real soon, and we both felt exactly the same way and weren't in the business of making profits through decals. So all the money's been given back to kids and through scholarships, majoring in agriculture, coming out of high school or already in college in the ag department. Erik and I are giving all the money back. So that's a very important fact and because of that and the way we felt, we've had people come from all over who want to help. And Jeff Ayalo and this movie on PBS just completed their first season with 10 episodes. And our second one's going to start here right after the first of the year. And it's on valleypbs.org. Is it? Org, Erik?
Yeah, valleypbs.org, yeah.
.org. And you could see the past episodes and the ones coming up here next year. It's a marvelous thing. And I'm humbled.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. That's tremendous that you guys are giving back to the community with that money. That's fantastic. And if you're out there and you haven't seen one of these documentaries or one of these shows, I urge you, when we're done here, don't leave now, but when we're done, check it out, because they're amazing. They're really good. Erik, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So what was great the backstory to all this is Jeff Ayalo, the producer, and him and his wife both were a member of our Facebook page. And I think they bought into the idea of my job depends on ag. And as a producer, he kind of put two and two together and realized in the Central Valley, a lot of his jobs that he had done sourced from the ag community. And he got a call from PBS to do a water documentary called Tapped Out. And I got a phone call from one of his camera guys, and it ended up being a childhood friend. I see the name on my phone. I was like, oh, man, I haven't heard of this guy in a long time. My buddy David Boomer called me, and he introduced us to Jeff, and felt like My Job Depends on Ag would be great source for people who would willing to get on camera to help in his documentary. And he produced this thing. It was about water in California. It was just absolutely fantastically done. It's a really good, not only our series that he ended up getting going too, but there's Tapped Out on PBS. People should tune into and watch. It's extremely educational and important. Teachers use it in the classroom, and they're using our docuseries in the classroom. And our docuseries is not necessarily about Steve and I. Jeff is taking stories and ideas and things that he has seen off the Facebook page and went and wanted to go talk to people. He was in Cal Poly in your neck of the woods on a drone episode here recently, but it's just really humbling to be part of that and to see that it kind of did work with what me and Steve did. People did, want to get involved in this and felt like this is an important thing to get going on,
Yeah. So Erik, in a bigger picture format for you guys, what is the real message you want to get out? What is the real purpose here?
For me, I just think that we can. I've always felt, because I grew up in town. I wasn't a farmer, okay? My parents weren't. So I feel like this connection that I've always had with my urban friends. And so I kind of segued from growing up in town to now I'm farming and owning an agricultural business. So I have this, I understand the curiosity that city folk have with what we're doing. They drive by and they're curious to why they're doing this in this manner, these steps and these processes. So I think there's an opportunity, always an opportunity, and you guys have probably all felt it too, when you sit down at a dinner table or someone asks what you're doing, you explain, they're very curious. It opens the doors of opportunity. People want to know how their food is grown, and it's something that it's a starting point where we can not have to worry about the R and the D after somebody's name and talk about the importance of our food supply. If I had to wave a magic wand, I would wish that people would see the value, the true value of what especially American grown food brings to our life sustaining a life as we know it. It's a tremendous effort to feed 330 million people 3 times a day. It's unbelievable. I'm proud to be part of it.
Yeah, no, I have that fascination too, because oftentimes I'll sit down and have a salad and I'll think, head of lettuce, $1.50. How did it
Right.
get to my house, right? How did it go from the field, grown, shipped, grocery store, everybody taking a little piece, and it's $1.50. I mean, that is so inexpensive for something so
Yeah.
good and so healthy.
Yeah.
Steve, what about you, and your thoughts on kind of the big picture meaning for you?
You know, Eric and I, for 5 years, have been having this discussion from time to time. I used to always tell him, something big's going to come from this. We're getting so much wonderful feedback that something big's going to come out of this. And we're not on TV every Friday night in front of 300 million people, but we've touched a lot of people. And to hear people realize, not realize, but to hear people pat us on the back for what we've accomplished and what it makes them feel to see the decal and to see all this information on Facebook page. It's really fun to be a part of this community that everybody has got the same spirit. You know, there's one thing we all have in common, and that's how we feel about this industry we're in. And we've talked about unity. You know, what would be an amazing, I don't know, decal behind you. If we had every ag person in the country familiar with it, then what would we have? So, and ag's the same all over. It's underneath everybody's nose, but we're invisible. And if we can get the word out and let people know who we are, and all we're doing is feeding them. We need water to do it. And this California thing is, I know it sounds like that's all we talk about is what's out here, but ag's got their issues all over. And we'll see where this thing goes. We're on TV and talking to you guys today. It's been fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You guys are raising the awareness in a very good, positive way. So, Erik, what are some of the things, maybe some of the myths that have been out there about agriculture that you guys have been able to debunk?
Oh man, there's a lot. Well, since you're into irrigation and stuff, I think water is one of the things that we really try to focus on as far as how much water is available in California, and to debunk the myth that a lot of people read about agriculture using 80% of California's water. That's a hard one to get through and to break through, because major news publications just are a little bit, in my opinion, lazy to just drill down the true facts of all of that. What people need to understand when you hear that number is, yes, the reservoirs and the supply system that we had built as taxpayers and have built a system that does not capture and store all of California's water, not even close. So the suggestion that that agriculture uses 80% of California water, it's implied to people who don't understand that out of the total amount of water that falls on the state of California, ag is using 80% of it, and that's wholly inaccurate. There's a tremendous amount of water at times that goes way beyond your wild imagination of water that could be stored. And it's not only just beneficial for people who are growing food and fiber, but also our citizens of the state if managed properly. And that's just been one of the things I think it's easy just to play the political game and to say, oh, you know, I think that's my goal, and Steve's goal is to get the correct information and get it out there. Because when I tell people, you know, in that manner, you know, for us to use 80% of California's water as implied, people think that. They really believe that, oh my goodness, you're using 80% of the water in California, and that's not even close. So with that's one of the biggest myths that we would try to.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And the other thing that I know not everybody realizes, right? That's why you guys are so successful, right? Is they're bringing this awareness, and that is what 65% of the fruits and vegetables for the whole United States comes out of right where you guys are, the Central Valley of California. So,
You know,
it's
Erik,
water for everybody. Steve?
Sorry, Erik hit the big one. Water's number one. But this ag thing also has big issues when it comes to minimum wage, when it comes to the availability of labor here in California. Because of all those produce vegetables we grow here, you need hands and people to pick it, and not machinery where the corn belt, the wheat belt, and the soybean belts have got a harvester that can go through there with a satellite, and one person's there harvesting thousands of acres. So the water is the big issue, but and the way farmers take care of their people. You know, there's some people think, my God, I never go work for a farmer out in the field because they're being abused by their labor and out there in the elements. But California's strict. We got safe food out here, and we take care of the people that help us get that to the market. So yeah, well, that's on the page.
Yeah. So Steve, is available labor still an issue?
All the time. Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. Is an issue going to be an issue, right? For the next
Yeah, there's some positive things going on. Some of the people that are involved with Jeff Aiello that's helping us with American Grown series has been talking to people in California about health insurance for farm workers now. And you'd be surprised with some support of the right people in this state. There's some great opportunities to take care of that workforce we need to get this produce done.
There's actually, I got a phone call from an organization down south that is working on a couple of bills to do just that, which would, as California growers, pay more money for their labor bills than any place on the planet. Okay. And so, but we are at the same time, we allow crops to be introduced to our supermarkets and grocery stores from grown without these standards. So there's an effort that would say, well, if you're going to, and I'm just paraphrasing. The idea was to make some kind of bill that would, especially with the state of California, if it's purchasing food, to purchase first from California growers. And some of these extra costs that might cause the grocery chains or whatever could be used to provide health insurance. So there's different. I think people, we really are concerned about the employees out here, and I think that there's been a lot of efforts to be made and continued discussions on how to provide healthcare for these people that they're the best, and they're just tremendous workers. And so we're trying to get that going.
Yeah, and there's really some good stories about this out there, right? Some growers that are really helping in the healthcare area.
Their housing there's some people in this produce business that are providing housing for them now, and the conditions. It's getting competitive because of the lack of labor. There's some fields of produce that have not been harvested because at the time it was ready to harvest, there was nobody there to pick it, and they had to walk by it and go on to the next one. It's an extraordinary place for ag.
Yeah. So Erik, what's been some of the biggest challenge, or maybe one of the biggest challenges you guys have faced that you were able to overcome, and how'd you overcome that?
I think that for me, and this is just me, I don't know if Steve will agree. Steve has been around the block a few times, and he's just more doesn't let things bother him as much as they do bother me, I guess. When it comes to admitting the Facebook page, like I said earlier, the challenges of keeping the page on point with 93,000 people who can organically, post in conversation, it can be really discouraging at times to see a great post in conversation And that's just the way it is. It's not just exclusive to My Job Depends on Ag. It's frustrating. I think the challenging is that I wish there was a social media site where we can have some great conversations without all the other stuff. But I just understand that it is what it is. Facebook is free. That's the great thing about our site. It doesn't cost us anything. And so with that comes many challenges. And I think that that's just something that freedom of speech is extremely important to me. And I am thick-skinned when it comes to that. So I have to challenge myself sometimes. What may bother or offend somebody else doesn't necessarily offend me, even if it would be directed at me. Even personally, I don't get offended, and so I sometimes worry that maybe the challenging thing is being an admin on the page more than anything. It's even more difficult sometimes than running my own business, you know. But it's and to keep motivated and to be inspired to keep writing stuff and informing has been a challenge for me.
Yeah. So now you guys have a website too, right?
Yeah, we have a website, and we've kind of it's like nobody gets paid. We have no resources to pay people to, do stuff. We have a couple other people that have kind of spun off and took some messaging differently off My Job Depends on magazine that you guys might see around. Was an effort by a guy named Charlie. He's done a great job with this magazine, and he's got writers and stuff that he's introduced, and that's circulated all through the state of California as well. And but I don't have any editorial control over that, and as far as everyday conversations there, but it's still great to see that someone who has the time can do it. Us personally and the people involved, sometimes it's difficult to do this with no resources.
Yeah. So, okay, this is getting amazingly interesting, right? Because you guys started something and did such a good job with it that other people are spinning off what you did, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's really successful to see that happen.
Yeah.
But I can see the frustration of not having any editorial control.
Well, I guess that. I could have some. I could, and I mean, I think what I mean is I don't have, and Steve probably says the same way, to look at every single thing that is being published or talked about and sign off on. I could, but I have a full-time job. I'm a full-time husband, and I'm a full-time dad. So those three things come first. And it's hard. And then My Job Depends on Ag and the other stuff. It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. Well, you guys have done a great job with it. Steve, what about you? Something you've overcome and how you did it, and as it relates to My Job Depends on Ag?
Well, one of the things that I can tell you that's been frustrating to me is we've been invited to go so many places together, and because Erik said all those things he does, he can't make most of them over the years. And this thing is, without him, has been fun. And I made the decal and he made the page, but collaborating together in front of a crowd like this is, to me, is the funnest. And we tell people that this is as grassroots as it gets. It's organic. We don't, ideally it'd be fun to have a little office out and we talked about and tried having a little office that we paid $200 a month rent on, with a computer and a couple of volunteers to mail out decals and apparel and monitor our page and have writers promote all this and create a little business. And it's not turned into anything like that. And where we have the most fun to see the people is our annual ag show in California here in February. We have a booth, and there's 100,000 people that come by the booth and say hi to us over 3 days. And we get an extraordinary amount of people across this ag section from all over the US and the world. We had a guy come from Belgium to visit us. And that's the rewarding thing, to have people come and tell us thanks. And we love what you're doing. And it's really inspirational. So,
yeah. Boy, it's inspirational just hearing about it. That's great. So, Erik,
we're looking? I'll be silly. We're looking for a major corporation that wants to branch out and run a social media web. Well, ideally, what would be fun, Richard, is to come up with a 24-hour-a-day TV ag network on satellite TV or national TV or cable TV and do all ag. And what a better name to have, but my job depends on ag to get something like that started.
Yeah, boy, and now would be the time to do it too. So, all right, so we got a little snippet of what may be in store in the future for My Job Depends on Ag. What else, Eric? What else are you guys looking to do?
Yeah, I think that's when we do these shows, you never know what's going to spin off from that. I just hope that the success continues to grow, and also it's pretty interesting to see the explosion on Instagram. The hashtag My Job Depends on Ag it's incredible, and that doesn't have anything to do with us. That's all organic. People have picked up on the hashtag. And I there's probably 50,000 posts of people individually saying their job depends on ag. And so, if even that I just think that's just absolutely incredible from people all over the country are using that hashtag. And it's just really, I think the appeal, to be honest with you, one of your questions is what was the appeal? I think Steve and I are just average in every way. And I think the appeal is people understand that we're real. We work in the field every day, and so we're not a paid spot, not being paid to say anything. We're free in our own thoughts. And I think that's kind of attractive to people, not to see like it's coming from a paid spot to say stuff. It's all coming from personal experience at the ground and boot level.
Yeah, you guys are really living it.
Yes.
And sharing it. And that's what's great. So, Steve, any thoughts too on the next steps for My Job Depends on Ag as far as you're concerned?
No, I think. Sorry, somebody's trying to call me. No, I think Erik hit it on the head. Where the new TV series is coming out next year. valleypbs.org is our local affiliation here in Central California. Jeff has got some good vibes about it possibly going nationally. And maybe the second time around, we might see something like that. It was nominated for a couple of local awards that Jeff was pretty proud of. And to me, and Erik, that's a big thing to see ag being at least looked at from the educational PBS stations that don't have as much ag as we would like. But,
yeah. And that video series again is American grown, right?
American grown, My Job Depends on Ag.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's the hat.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you. And the Facebook page is My Job Depends on Ag, hashtag My Job Depends on Ag. You'll see it all over Instagram. You'll see it on Twitter now too. I know that we're live tweeting this as well as we talk as well. So it's getting out there. You guys, thank you so much for being on today. I loved hearing this story. I admire so much what you guys are doing and bringing this awareness, and we're going to do everything we can to keep promoting it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And for all of you watching today, thanks for tuning in again. We appreciate you taking your time. A lot of it, it's your lunch hour, and that's valuable time. So we appreciate that. Remember, we're on the video. You can see the replay on the Jane USA website, and you can also catch us on the Google, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. So again, you guys, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. All right. Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Thanks, Erik. That was good.